plead the first. White shirt, blue jeans, I bleed the verse. American dream, I plead the first. White shirt, blue jeans, I bleed the verse. American dream.
I'm Joe, this is Christina. This is Plead the First. We have our guest for our very first show, Gracie.
Hi, I'm Grace. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. So we're here today. We wanted to start a platform where we could just talk about whatever we wanted to. And then we were trying to discuss what we should talk about on our first episode. And we thought, why not the First Amendment?
Perfect.
So here we are. We're going to talk about that. We're going to start with kind of cancel culture / deplatforming, the stuff that's going on.
Yep.
It's pretty...
Kind of where it started.
Yeah.
I mean, going back, I think it actually started, I would say it started probably about a year ago-ish. Well, I would actually say it started about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
When Trump came on the scene, and that's when everybody started freaking out that we have this new guy who absolutely uses his freedom of speech.
And does not care about your feelings or how he puts his facts down.
Yeah, I think once they saw, I mean, perfect is his Twittering, right? So, I mean, have you ever seen a president get on and just start Twittering? And that, I think, freaked everyone out pretty badly. So then, once we got, those 3 years into it, and he didn't care, which was, in my mind, it's beautiful. It was a beautiful thing to be able to not have to rely on media to get all my information from what's going on in my world in the White House. And he had always jumped ahead and let us know right away, which was so cool. And now I kind of feel going into, we can get to that going into this administration, that it's so, you almost have to dig to try to find it. But I think going into that third, or actually after the inauguration, and then they just silenced him. And
Well,
Sorry.
And there's like fact checkers too that you have to dig so much, like Facebook, and it's not, it almost seems more one-sided than the other. If you comment something that doesn't exactly agree with the fact checker's opinions, then immediately your post gets like, it's fake, this is wrong, it completely gets shut down, and it almost seems like you do need to dig to find out what's real and what's not.
Yeah, Christine and I have talked about this before actually, but the fact checkers are interesting because a lot of times they'll slam you with a not accurate or whatever, and then you dig into that and it's actually saying something more like context lacking or whatever.
Right.
That isn't always the case either. A lot of times the context isn't lacking, it's just whatever fact checking
Fact checker
source,
who wants to say that you're right or wrong.
They just want to find a way to slap that, hey, this has been fact checked and it's not completely accurate on there.
You didn't dot your I's and cross your T's. And that's why
Exactly.
all down to a little thing that down to their opinion, honestly.
Right.
It really gets to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's dangerous where we are right now in the world with this cancel culture. You're not going to have, with freedom of speech, you have all these ideas, and it's refreshing. Even if they're wrong, even if it's not, you should be able to dig into
Exactly what you want to know. Like, cancel culture goes so deep, even not politically, but socially. Like when you get to YouTubers who, they're humans and they make a mistake and they say something that could offend a certain group of people, and then all of a sudden these millionaire YouTubers that have worked hard to get where they are now are suddenly bankrupt and they have nowhere to go and everyone hates them.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing about it, and that's kind of why we wanted to talk about it today, is because it's not protected under the First Amendment, because it's not the government doing it to them. It's culture and it's our society doing it to them.
It's the people.
And it's crazy because I've always been told my whole life that, hey, you have the right to say whatever you want, but that doesn't free you from the consequences.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I've always agreed with.
Yeah.
Until recently, I feel like maybe the consequences are getting a little too high for things
a bit harsh. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't know where we go from here with that, and who's going to protect us from it?
Well, unfortunately, you just keep going, right? I think you have to keep it. It reminds me of high school and whoever's the most popular.
That's exactly how it is. That is exactly how it is. A girl A girl from Harvard said that she wanted to like. This is extreme, but a girl from Harvard said that she wanted to kill people because she was a more democratic person rather than a conservative because of their point of view. And she got death threats online, like she lost her job, like every amount of her livelihood got taken away. And may I add, it is a little extreme to threaten death, but at the same time, like, you don't deserve to be ended up on the streets because of it.
Well, it's your job.
Yeah.
Well, at least, you know,
Yeah.
I mean that,
Yeah.
but you don't deserve to have everything taken away from you.
And that's one of those things, like, I don't know the situation you're talking about, I don't know the person, but that's one of those things where we actually do need context, because who hasn't been upset or joking and said, dude, I'm gonna kill you,
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Right.
or truly upset, like, I am so mad at you, I will kill you right now.
Or I will
Like-
cut you. That was like the biggest thing. I will cut
Right.
you. Could you imagine if you said that and then someone just like totally freaked out?
And took it out of context.
Yeah.
Right.
There's,
And that's where, like, that's not a true threat, and I think under investigation of a court, like,
Right.
you find, hey, this isn't a true threat. Therefore, I think some of the results and some of the reactions are just a little over the top for some of the stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we can come out and we can say to somebody, hey, I don't like what you did there.
so going with that, what we're talking about, let's go to the Capitol on the
Okay.
6th.
Okay.
President Trump stated, when you go peacefully and patriotically over and voice your words.
Yeah, you posted that on Instagram and Twitter, everywhere.
He's going through an entire impeachment because they're saying that he incited violence with
Mhm.
those words, right?
Yes.
So it has gotten to the point of ridiculous, I believe, because this is just nuts. He didn't say anything out of context that would have said, okay, now we're going to storm the Capitol.
Right.
But that's where we are now because of freedom of speech has been like, it's just so altered and so tilted in this
Yeah.
world.
Telling a crowd to peacefully go protest at the Capitol
Yes.
somehow incited violence. That doesn't make any sense to anybody that can detach themselves from the moment, which is, I think, something that lacks in the political climate. Not a lot of people are willing to detach themselves and say, let me just look at this, step back,
Right.
look at it objectively, and say, did something bad happen here? Obviously, what happened at the Capitol was bad, but did Trump cause that? No, I don't think so. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah. Well, can you think back in history of any time when a government person or someone in higher office had said something, anything that created issues?
Hitler. But
Well-
that wasn't even the same case, but
There's
I'm
been a
saying-
few times in our government
Yeah.
recently, actually.
But I'm talking back like in the 50s when everything seemed more normal. And it
Mhm.
probably wasn't normal back then, but where you could actually say something and not everybody take it out of context so
Mhm.
badly.
Jump to conclusions.
Yeah, yeah. I
Right.
think we've become such pussies, excuse my language, in this world that you can't say anything anymore
Right.
without people. I mean, you just can't. And you have to watch your P's and Q's on every single thing you say. And maybe that's where we need to stop worrying about ruffling people's feathers
Right.
all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to get past that.
well, I think it's with the new generation, especially with my generation being a high schooler, dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. I have to worry if I'm calling them by their correct pronouns. No, I'm not even messing with you.
Yeah.
I had an entire discussion on this at school. You have to call them by their right pronouns, and if you don't, you have to ask politely, and if you offend them, and it's to the point where I have to ask pronouns for some people without, who do you think you are? Like,
So, I guess that's an interesting topic.
It
and
is.
My question is, who's enforcing that? Is it a social pressure?
it's a social pressure for
Right.
sure, and a lot of younger conservatives don't really understand it as myself, but more, I don't know, but it just keeps getting weirder along the lines where some people are asking you to call them like kitty man, and like it gets weird.
What
And
is that? Oh my gosh.
that gets into kinks, but anyways, like it gets really weird, and if you don't respect them or their sexuality or how they prefer to be called, you don't deserve to.
Well, that's a
to.
whole other topic right there.
It
in
is,
regards
and
to
I
sex.
And that's
don't want to get too far into this because this could go on. We could talk about this for a long time, but
Yeah.
I think probably the takeaway in context with our conversation now is that they're trying to compel you to use language that you possibly could be uncomfortable with, and that's
Yes.
not okay. I will never call somebody kitty man.
Yeah.
Not gonna do it.
Yeah.
well, it's
I
just
don't
a
have a
social
problem.
pressure. I mean, and then if you don't abide to that social pressure, then you're canceled. It doesn't matter.
I don't have a problem
You're
being
canceled
respectful.
socially,
You're canceled
like
socially.
physically, socially too.
Yeah.
No, like if I were to, let's say somebody identified as a they them, and I would call them by their biological gender, I would be looked at as a bully, as
Yes,
somebody who
that's what I-
doesn't deserve to be talked to at lunch, and then I would lose
So
all
it's
of my
no longer
friends to it.
social
Right.
canceling. That's what I was saying. You're canceled physically also.
Yes,
Yeah.
as well.
Not just your voice.
Exactly.
They don't want anything to do with you. We're living in high school.
Yes.
We really, really are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel for you guys. I know my son recently talked to me about some First Amendment stuff. He had a class where they were discussing whose fault it was when somebody was offended, whether it was the speaker or the hearer. And he was one of the few people in his class that said it's the hearer's fault. Like, you know, I mean, he said within reason, you know, I mean, there's, you have to look at each individual case by case, but for the most part,
Yeah.
if somebody's being reasonable and you've become offended by their reasonable speech, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You know?
It's your choice to let it bother you or not.
If that person is seeking to offend you, okay, obviously that's the speaker's fault.
Right.
But if they're just going about their day and talking the way they normally talk, that's obviously not their fault.
Right. Right.
Me
That's the-
saying, I really like her, and she doesn't use that pronoun, that's,
And then just going off and getting offended. It seems wrong.
yeah. We've all seen the Gamestop video, right, with the lady, it's ma'am!
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah.
So, that was a good talk. I think we'll kind of end it there, and we got a little bit more to talk about on the next episode. So
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's a huge subject. So thank you.
it was a good talk. Thanks.
Yeah, that was a good talk.
All right. Hey guys, thanks for watching our first video. Check back in a few days to see the rest of the conversation. In the meantime, like, share, subscribe, and comment. We'll talk to you soon.
Down on me, but I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go.